Cincinnati Bengals at the Cleveland Browns. Another 1 o'clock game because we're going in order here. The Bengals favored by 2.5. Joe Burrow returned to practice yesterday, Sam, the calf injury. There is a chance for re-injury there, I believe. But just keep an eye on him when he's moving. Should be able to throw the ball.
He's been running for quite some time. Like they've had him, under wraps, but doing things for quite an extended period of time. I feel like he's been ready for a while. They just haven't been. They've been deliberately cautious.
Yeah, it's good that it happened so early, I think, in the preseason. I guess the question there is, so remember, last year at this time, week 1 they played the Steelers. And they, on paper, looked like a much better team than the Steelers. And they ended up being a much better team than the Steelers at the end of the day. But Pittsburgh won because Joe Burrow threw 4 picks. Some were fluky, but there were 4 interceptions in there. There was a missed game-winning field goal. Like, weird stuff can absolutely happen. So that's part of the reason why we don't overreact to week 1.
Weird stuff happens every week.
It does. But I wonder, is Joe Burrow going to be rusty at all? He hasn't taken many reps leading into this game. Is there going to be a rust factor? Plus, again, the Browns are one of the biggest unknowns in the NFL, in part because we don't know exactly what we're going to get from Deshaun Watson.
Right. I'm not massively concerned about Joe Burrow and rust. I think he should be able to hit the ground running and be fine. The bigger thing is we don't really have any idea what this Browns team is going to be. Like, they could be anywhere from terrible again to very good, good. And that's, I think, the big question mark. This is one of those weird quirks where Cleveland has been unusually successful against Joe Burrow.
Yes.
Joe Burrow, the guy who beat Patrick Mahomes 3 straight tries and was a dumb penalty away from doing it again, can't beat the Browns, even when the Browns haven't been good. So has that just been a freaky run of weird plays, or is there some reason Joe Burrow struggles against Cleveland?
You're going to find me probably thinking about that when I make my pick here.
I'm assuming there's no reason behind it because I can't see an obvious one, but so far it's been a thing.
One of the biggest matchups to watch, Orlando Brown comes in to protect Joe Burrow, not necessarily his blind side, but the left side. And he's matched up, Orlando Brown, with Myles Garrett more than anybody in the NFL during his career. And he has not had, in just one-on-one pass blocking matchups, he has not had great success against Myles Garrett. He has a loss rate of 18%. Only a handful of guys are better than that as far as Garrett goes against Orlando Brown. So you can invert, Myles Garrett usually gets the better of Orlando Brown over time. So just something to keep an eye on. Again, I don't want to overreact because that happened in week 1 a couple of years back, right? Was it Browns-Chiefs week 1? And Orlando Brown got whooped by Myles Garrett, and that ended up being the only bad game that he had pretty much that entire season. But just keep an eye on that matchup in particular because they have a history, and Myles Garrett usually gets the better of him. Not necessarily for sacks, but for a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, the Cleveland defense generally, I think, is an interesting thing to watch. Last season, it was so much worse than everybody expected it to be, in large part because, they couldn't cover anybody. The root cause of that, I think, is open for debate. Like, the problem was their coverage was a disaster. But I think you can construct an argument that it was so bad because the only person capable of getting any pressure was Myles Garrett. And then occasionally, every few games, Jadeveon Clowney would show up and make a little bit of an impact. But generally speaking, Myles Garrett was the only guy getting pressure. Consequently, the defense was getting hung out to dry on the back end and, exposed in coverage. Now, it's Myles Garrett. They've added players up front. Shelby Harris coming in, Dalvin Tomlinson, Maurice Hurst. Zadarius Smith is a big one. Obo Okoronkwo on the edge as well. Isaiah McGuire maybe even features. Like, they've got a lot of players now up front that can potentially get pressure. I mean, just Zadarius Smith on his own should be a massive upgrade as a complement to Myles Garrett and ensure that you can't just, zero in on Garrett and try and take him out of the game. I think that should massively help the back end as well. Like, forget what it does for the defensive front. I think that should vastly help the secondary where they're good players there. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson, J.O.K. Like, this is not a group that should have been getting lit up every single week. So I think that defense across the board could end up being much, much better than a year ago.
The on-paper off-season effort by the Browns, I think, was excellent. Let's see how it plays out here, because we might be waking up Monday morning talking about all those Browns off-season defensive line adjustments, and then also saying to the Bengals, keep an eye on this one, Jonah Williams moving from the left side to the right side. We've seen NFL veterans, when they're in year 4, 5, 13, in Donald Penn's case, if they move from the left side to the right side later in their career, the great Ali Villanueva, sometimes they struggle. So keep an eye on Jonah Williams, because he'll be seeing a little bit of Zadarius Smith, maybe Obo, maybe a moving around Myles Garrett. So that's something else to watch. At the end of the day, so I think the Bengals are a better team, right? I think they're a better team. At the end of the day, I think they'll be a better team. I pick them for the Super Bowl. I pick them to win the AFC North. I don't know about this week. Joe Burrow rust. Offensive line moving around for the Bengals. Browns defensive line overhaul plus Jim Schwartz, new system. They're going to be getting after Joe Burrow. Bengals' hope is their playmakers, right? Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, those dudes make plays. Joe Burrow's awesome. Denzel Ward, by the way, dealing with a concussion. Not sure if he's back this week or not. So, lot to like as far as watching this game, but it is weird that the Browns have had a lot of success against the Bengals. I think I'm going to go with the Browns here, covering the 2.5, in part because of that history.
And the huge variance as well in what you're going to get from Deshaun Watson. Are you going to get struggling Deshaun again, or is he going to bounce back and be something like the player he was in Houston on the field? That's maybe the chief driver behind the broad range of outcomes in Cleveland. I am going to bank on the idea that this freaky run for the Browns has been freaky, and the Bengals are better, so they'll win and cover.
You took the Bengals?
Yeah.
I think the spreadsheet says otherwise.
No, it doesn't.
Does it? Then I misread it.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, great. I think as far as overreaction goes, this could be one of the biggest games to overreact to.